The air in the study was cold, smelling of old parchment and damp cedar, but the cappuccino on the desk was steaming. Detective Elias Thorne stood by the cracked window, his silhouette mirrored in the glass, but his attention was fixed on the white ceramic cup. He hadn't made it. His assistant had been dead for 3 days, and the house had been locked from the inside with a heavy iron bolt. He looked at the desk. The map was spread out. An unfinished letter sealed with red wax sat waiting, and the portraits on the wall stared down with hollow eyes. One portrait, a man with a stern mustache, had been defaced with a jagged black X across his eyes. Thorne moved toward the desk, the floorboards groaning under his weight. He leaned over the cup. The foam was perfect, a thick, velvety cloud dusted with cinnamon. But as he looked closer, he saw it. On the rim of the cup, there was a faint, drying lipstick stain. It was the same shade of crimson he had seen at the cafe earlier that week. His heart hammered against his ribs. The study was a fortress of secrets, yet someone had walked in, brewed a perfect drink, and sat in his chair to watch the rain. He reached out to touch the cup, but stopped when he noticed a small, wet ring on the map. The cup had been moved. Underneath the saucer lay a tiny, handwritten note, stained by a drop of coffee. "You take yours with 2 sugars, Elias," I remembered. He turned toward the window, peering through the cracks in the glass. Outside, in the grey fog, a figure in a trench coat held a magnifying glass to the world, disappearing into the mist. The cappuccino wasn't just a drink. It was a calling card from a ghost he thought he had buried long ago. Who else would know exactly how he liked his coffee, and how did they get past the bolted door? Thorne's fingers trembled as he picked up the silver spoon resting beside the saucer. He dipped it into the foam, half expecting the liquid to be an illusion, but it was real warm, rich, and terrifyingly familiar. He turned his gaze back to the window. The figure in the fog was gone, swallowed by the London mist, leaving behind only the jagged cracks in the glass as proof of their presence. How had they stood so close? The window was 10 feet above the cobblestones, with no ledge to speak of. He looked back at the defaced portrait. The black X wasn't ink. It was charcoal, still smudging the canvas. Thorne realized with a jolt that the man in the painting was the only person who knew the combination to the safe hidden behind the bookshelf his former partner, Silas, who had supposedly perished in the Great Fire of the Docks. Thorne set the cup down and grabbed the letter with the red wax seal. As he broke the wax, the aroma of the coffee seemed to intensify, filling the room with a scent that didn't belong in a house of mourning. Inside the envelope was not a letter, but a single photograph. It showed Thorne himself, sitting in this very chair, taken from the perspective of the window. In the photo, he was asleep, and on the desk in front of him sat the same white cup, steam rising in a ghostly curl. A soft click echoed from the hallway. The bolt on the door hadn't moved, but the shadow beneath the door shifted. Thorne reached for the heavy brass lamp, his only weapon, as the handle began to turn with agonizing slowness. "The coffee is getting cold, Elias," a muffled, melodic voice whispered from the other side. "And we have so much to discuss regarding the map." Thorne lunged for the door, throwing it open, but the hallway was empty. Only the faint, lingering scent of cinnamon and the sound of a distant, mocking laugh remained. He looked back at the desk. The cappuccino was gone. In its place sat a single wooden spoon,